I can clearly see how the Holy Spirit was with me the whole time and protecting me. I wanted to pursue art history too because I was just so passionate about all of the masters and I wanted to be like them. I feel like I experienced what that man experienced in the Bible with Legion. It was like 9 months of pure psychosis. Just like look at the map, you see there's an entire different civilization that once lived and used and built these walls that we just came and built our farms on top of and repurposed them.
Hello everyone, welcome to the next installment of Guest Artist, and today I have somebody who's actually been a long time follower and subscriber and active participant in the community I have over at Understanding Conspiracy, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth has sent me some artwork personally in the past, and I have quite regularly supported her and promoted her work on my shows simply because I enjoyed it. I thought this is some raw talent right here, and probably grossly underappreciated, as raw talent tends to be in the modern art world. Now, before we begin, she has asked me to read her biography, which she has on her own website, which I'll be showing on the screen as I discuss this with you. And from there, we're going to take the conversation. So I'm just going to read this for you guys first, and then we'll be back with Elizabeth to get into the details. Elizabeth Joyce Tellep grew up in a small New England lake town in eastern Connecticut. From a young age, her parents emphasized the importance of having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Although she lost touch with him as a teenager, by the time she was in university, she was earnestly seeking a connection to an omnipotent God that she knew existed. In 2012, Elizabeth graduated high school and received the University of Hartford's Artistic Merit Scholarship. She started her formal arts education at the Hartford Art School, working towards her BFA in illustration and art history. It was there she began searching for spiritual understanding through the ways the world put in front of her: New Age, occult knowledge, and psychedelics. She embraced a syncretist view, with a particular interest in Native American traditions and Eastern philosophy. It was during this time that she was first invited to participate in entheogenic indigenous ceremonies at a local culture centre. Elizabeth decided to take a pause from her formal education when she received the opportunity to travel to Sedona, Arizona, with a small Native American church group. She feels honoured to have met such gracious people and to have had the opportunity to experience their spiritual traditions firsthand. However, her entheogenic explorations led her to participate in various shamanic ayahuasca ceremonies, which brought detrimental consequences. When she was 21 years old, Elizabeth suffered through a mental health crisis that was induced by a 3-night ayahuasca ceremony. She fled back to Connecticut, where she battled psychosis for 6 months until she recovered by God's grace and her family's support. The traumatic experience left her depressed and spiritually apathetic, resulting in a 5-year-long hiatus from art making. During this time, Elizabeth redirected her focus. With the encouragement of her father, she decided to pursue a new avenue of interest in mechanical drafting. Elizabeth received her computer-aided design certificate and entered the aerospace industry as a drafter in 2017, where she assisted in the design of ground support equipment and air management systems. However, her research into systematic corruption influenced her to leave her position in 2024. She continues to work on 3-dimensional models, assemblies, and technical drawings in the renewable energy field. When life drastically changed in 2020, Elizabeth found herself working remotely and spending all her time quarantining with family. Nevertheless, it was a welcome break from the office culture for her. In the sanctuary of her husband's childhood home, her love and passion for art was revived. She spent her newly acquired free time drawing small, surrealistic value drawings, often in her mother-in-law's garden. She became endlessly inspired by the happiness her drawings brought to her, close friends, and family. Less than a year later, Elizabeth and her husband bought their first home. Her new space provided her the solitude to reflect on her experiences, and she began seeking answers to all of her unresolved questions. She slowly began to mend her relationship with God, and her passion for researching alternative history and conspiracies led her back to the Bible. Elizabeth became a born-again Christian in June of 2023. She aspires to share the gospel of Jesus Christ through her artwork, forever seeking to invoke the Holy Spirit in others' hearts. As she patiently flows through her lengthy artistic process, she loves listening to various contrarian authors and content creators such as Paul Stobbs, Joe Telford, Vitaly Pajorny, Gary Wayne, and Jerry Marzinski. Her new space has also allowed her to expand her artistic interests. After spending the previous few years dedicated to small graphite drawings, Elizabeth moved on to creating large-scale oil paintings to finally capture the vibrant colours of her favourite subjects. Elizabeth loves to portray clear blue skies contrasted against bright primary colours. She takes on complex and detailed compositions, often depicting Gothic and Greco-Roman architecture that is lovingly juxtaposed and vividly coloured birds, flowers, and animals from her garden. Notable subjects she is currently exploring include the rose window of the Washington, D.C. National Cathedral and the National Capitol columns. The two pieces are her current works in progress and are a part of a broader series of oil paintings. The first piece in the series, titled Agency, was completed in July 2022, and she is currently finalizing the second, Spirit of Truth. Elizabeth, it's great to have you here. Thanks for doing this. So that story we just read, your biography, it sounds like a fascinating tale. I'm not going to lie. It sounds like you've been through hell and back, many ups and downs, trials and tribulations, to get to where you are today, where you kind of taken it upon yourself to kind of revitalize your passion for art. And, it speaks to me in a way because I'm struggling to do the same thing. The world kind of drew me away from being an artist for a long time through apathy more than anything. And psychedelic exploration was a large part of my early testimony as well. So I feel like we've got a good conversation to have here. So I guess the first question I've got for you is, did you learn to be an artist or were you always an artist?
Oh, that's an easy question. I've always been an artist. I remember in preschool just drawing. Everyone else was drawing stick figures, but I was drawing the dresses, and that passion for art kind of always just stayed with me. My oldest sister was a huge influence growing up, and she inspired me to keep pursuing it because she was an artist herself. And I have to say, I always prayed that I would be an artist one day, and here I am, I guess.
Well, you've made it to this show, so you're getting interviews, so something must be going right. Just so the audience know as well, I've got it actually up here right now. You did send me this piece of artwork maybe a couple of years ago now, maybe a year and a half ago, when I was still doing the Netflix clown stuff.
Yeah, and about 2 years ago.
Yeah, and this was one of the pieces, and get a close-up view there. And honestly, it's phenomenal. And it combines two of my favorite things. Well, three of my favorite things, to be honest. Architecture, birds, and the Bible. So that's actually an amazing combination. And I was thankful to have that. And for a long time, it was actually here behind me. But I'm working on a new wall design, and I want to wait till you finalize the piece, which is actually right behind you there, isn't it? And you're working on painting this currently. And I'll show some pictures as I'm talking here so the audience can see this. But it's fantastic, and it's really good work. And I feel like the art world, and I've talked about this a lot already on the channel, and there's more to come, but I feel like the art world doesn't really promote or support artists with like technical talent so much these days as artists with the philosophical ability to talk forever.
That's kind of been my observations too.
Yeah, exactly. So when you came across my channel and started showing me this work, I was like, well, I got to use my platform for something good. And if I can use it to promote artists free of charge who, actually have some skill, then that's what I want to do. So when I started this channel, Understanding Creativity, I was immediately thinking of you. I was like, well, we'll get Elizabeth on. We'll actually get her to tell her testimony. So as you said there, art tends to come naturally to you. And I found the same myself. And I think people listening to this who may be artists themselves, this is a personal belief. It might be controversial. People might not like hearing it, but I kind of think like you either are or you are not a talented artist. And
Mhm.
I mean that quite literally. Like, I didn't learn to draw. I can't remember a single time in my life where I had to be taught how to do it. I just can. And I
Mhm.
think that tends to be the rule of thumb for most artists who can just do that. And it's not a brag because it's like, well, we didn't really do anything. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I worked really hard to get to this level. It just kind of flows. And I got the feeling that
Mhm.
you something similar. So that's why I had that opening question. Is that true, or am I just talking nonsense?
It hasn't always been true for me. Like growing up, I took a lot of pride in all of the hours I spent practicing and like
Mm-hmm.
honing my skills. But over the last 3 years, ever since I became a born again Christian, I learned that this is a gift that I've been given.
Well, of
Also
course,
teaching.
I wouldn't expect 5-year-old Elizabeth to have the same skill as 28-year-old, 30-year-old Elizabeth. But so, yeah, of course, it does take practice. But I guess it's like an innate passion, isn't it? You kind of,
Yeah, like I care. Like not everyone
yeah,
cares, you know?
exactly. Yeah, it's not difficult to do to spend hours practicing.
Oh
It's
yeah,
kind
that's
of
the fun part. That's the
exactly, yeah.
reward. Yeah, creating like the actual process of creating the art is the reward for me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've I became kind of jaded with like, sharing my art online and everything because you just said like the art industry itself doesn't promote um, artists with talent necessarily. The algorithms also haven't
Mm-hmm.
been my friend. So I feel like I've
Well,
been talking into the void for the last 3 years. Yeah, because
mm-hmm.
I took a 5 year hiatus from art making and got back into it around like 2018. And
Mm-hmm.
when I first started back up again, I was trying my best to, post online and share it. But I kind of lost some motivation
Mm-hmm.
because I never got, um, you know, it's something I have to work on, I'll say.
Yeah, well, the online algorithms are fickle and arbitrary. I found it's whatever's trending. It's not whatever's actually of any quality of any kind. I mean, the brain rot phenomena on short and
Mm-hmm.
using shorts and TikTok is a good example of it. It doesn't have to be high quality. It just has to be a dopamine releasing catchy something or other. So and obviously people who like yourself who spend hours painting, in a way, it deserves to be given the time for appreciation, and a short isn't really going to do that necessarily all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what these conversations are for. This is why I'm getting artists on from all walks of life who do different things. Like I said, I had Chris on from Biocharisma who builds domes for a living, and I had another artist on who works for Mattel and is a comic book writer as a thing. And obviously, you yourself are a fine art graduate, an illustrator graduate, who is making a go at trying to be a freelance artist on the side while having to work a job, which just tends to be the case for anyone in the art industry. I feel like it's not really like it used to be anymore, where these profound philosophical artists would just start movements, and then go down in the annals of history forever. I feel like that's kind of dead in a
Yeah.
sense with the postmodern kind of world we live in now when it comes to art. And the modernist history of art is kind of something we're reviewing on this channel, but I feel like we're in like a stagnant pool now where we kind of have to forge a new way of getting our work out there because the galleries aren't going to show it. They're too interested in money laundering and presenting nonsense, for the sake of nonsense sake, for deconstructing society for fun type of attitude. And I feel like the traditionalist types are kind of being pushed into the shadows, and I'm sick of it. I don't want that. And hopefully this channel could be like a hub for that idea of the traditional ways are still the best ways, and there are standards and there is beauty. So what I want to do is get into the actual testimony itself, because I know you've got kind of a bit of a dark time in your life to explore, which I think the audience
Mm-hmm.
might enjoy hearing. And I feel like it's these type of experiences that really kind of make an artist worth the salt, if you get what I mean. It kind of makes them have a drive and a passion to create something that means something. So if you want, I'll give the floor to you. Do you want to maybe tell the story of what it was like to go to art school, through university, and how you got into this spiritualist mess we kind of touched on at the beginning?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I graduated high school in 2012 and I went to the University of Hartford and started working towards my BFA in illustration art history. So freshman year, they had us do like a foundational, like core classes. And I would, I had this one class in particular that was all about like contemporary art, like who is most prominent in the field right now. And
Mm.
it was just, the common modern art class. And then I would go to my ancient art history class, and the juxtaposition between the amazing architecture I was studying in one class compared to the foundation class was,
Worlds apart, I imagine, because
yeah.
obviously by that point the modern art scene is well and truly corrupt and full of nonsense. But then you
Mhm.
obviously, when you go into a real field where people can die if you don't get the architecture correct, it's still serious, it's still beautiful, it still matters, and standards are still there. So I guess it was worlds apart from just imagining what you're saying there.
And yeah, so that's why I wanted to pursue art history too, because I was just so passionate about all of the
Mm.
masters. And I wanted to be like them, like Michelangelo and Da Vinci and all these amazing, like, just their skills had
Mhm.
merit to them. And I wanted to be set apart from the status quo that they were, like, from what I was observing.
Mhm.
And so I gave art school my absolute best. I didn't miss a day. I showed up to every class. I gave it my absolute all, and I worked very hard on my portfolio. And it wasn't that I fell out of love with art itself. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I was on the dean's list and giving it my absolute best, but it was around this time in college that I was invited to first participate in Indigenous ceremonies at a local culture center. And um, my priorities shifted in that time. Wanted to, I felt like God was calling me to follow this path that was kind of like unraveling in front of me. And
Mm.
I made the decision to drop out of art school. It was because I had like a love hate relationship with art school, I would say.
So what do you think was driving this love hate relationship with art school? Because I think I can imagine what you were feeling because I kind of went through the same thing. In many ways, I'm kind of jealous I didn't drop out. I would have been in a lot
Yeah.
less debt for a whole lot of nothing. So what was it for you that kind of put you off and made you want to just not bother even completing it?
So when in my department in illustration, they were much more focused on technical abilities, and they were just trying to teach everyone how to realistically recreate what is going on in your imagination. So
Mm.
it was very beneficial for me as someone who wants to learn how to draw realistically to go through that program. And I loved it for all of those reasons. But I think what really made me hate it at the same time was um, how do you say like it was soul sucking? Like to
That's good enough. That works. Yeah, absolutely.
it was soul sucking to have it was pretty much like boot camp. Like they would bombard you with like one assignment after another, and there was nothing like meaningful about what I was creating. And I reached the point where I was just doing like creating whole projects based off of the first idea I had because I didn't have enough time to
Mm.
articulate what I really wanted to say.
So I guess there was no freedom in it really. It was
Yeah.
kind of you have to do what they say, their way or the highway. Um, I guess it's all the technical stuff without any of the artistic creativity behind it, in a sense. Is that
Mhm.
what we're trying to say
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it because my assignments for illustration was like, okay, we want you to pretend you're writing a children's book. Here is a prompt and
Hmm.
follow these steps and we'll teach you the process.
Was that more like computer-based work as well, like illustration, using programs, creating logos, that type of thing, like more commercialized artwork? Is that kind of what
It
that?
was a good, healthy mixture
Yeah.
between like new media versus traditional techniques.
I had a similar experience, because I went in with aspirations and dreams of becoming a real gallery artist,
Mm-hmm.
and breaking new grounds in the field and kind of pushing boundaries. And when I got there, I realized it's all just narcissism, it's all
Yeah.
vanity and self obsession, and it's kind of subjectivism. And it didn't matter if you had any skill or talent; no one cared anyway. Some
Mm-hmm.
people were literally just making garbage, and I mean that, and putting it in the corner and calling it artwork. And so I had a bit of a falling away as well. It's like I loved it for the experience of getting to know the industry and how it operates, but I hated it for the standards that they had and or the lack of standards they had. I suppose in a way, maybe illustration would have given me more standards if I'd done something like that. But I can't. I've never considered or wanted to be an artist who like makes things for people.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I mean? Like designs, logos, or stuff that
Yeah.
type of thing. I'm not really. That's not really where I stand with art.
Yeah, I've
Um,
always felt that way too, but illustration was a compromise between me and my parents because I wanted to be a
mhm.
traditional artist like you. I
Yeah.
wanted to go into the galleries and just be a freelance, successful modern day artist. So, yeah,
But you got
it
there.
was.
You made the choice to get there in the end. And it's funny you say about the whole parent pressure thing because I kind of have like a side tangent story, but I've always been into art my entire life. Anyone who's seen me grow up would have guessed Paul's going to do something with art. He's going to be creative. But when I left university, my parents did not believe in me at all and demanded I just get a job, whatever it is, immediately to pay the bills,
Yeah.
to pay rent. So I ended up working at a supermarket and wasting like eight
Mhm.
years of my life doing something I completely hate and has nothing to do with what I actually am or what I want to be,
Mhm.
until I said, no, screw that, and just left. And here I am now doing exactly what I want to do with my life and
Mhm.
rekindling that long lost passion in a way. So I empathize with the whole
Yeah, that's an
parents kind of not believing in you when you want to be a traditional artist. I get it, Go ahead.
that's another similarity in our stories. I worked at a grocery store for a good 4 years while I was going to university and at Stop and Shop. I wasn't a store, I wasn't like a manager of the front end. I was just a cashier and a floral clerk. But
I bet so many people listening today who are practicing artists have the exact same experience. You have no choice because you don't make money being an artist these days. It's
yeah,
it's you've got to get very lucky and
that's,
or sell
yeah, that's
your soul to the devil is one of the two.
exactly.
So moving on then. So obviously art school just wasn't for you. It wasn't what you thought it was going to be. But then obviously you
Mhm.
had this opportunity presented to you. So do you want to maybe tell people more about what the opportunity was and kind of
Yeah.
where that led you through and the experiences you had?
So it was like a mixture of me running towards something and me running away from like art school and just wanting to get like a fresh start somewhere. So yeah, I received the opportunity to move to Sedona, Arizona, and um, I during that time I kind of stopped making art, just focused on exploring new areas because I've never traveled outside of Connecticut until then,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that's where I did most of my entheogenic explorations. I was sitting in ayahuasca ceremonies and um, trying peyote and all the various plant medicines, is what they would say. But that had detrimental consequences for me, like what you read in my bio. I It was a 3 night ayahuasca ceremony out in Ojai, California, and when I relive that those moments specifically now and like reflect on it, I can clearly see how the Holy Spirit was with me the whole time and protecting me until I don't know how to explain it. Like what I'm trying to say is I could see how God used this traumatic experience for his will. This is a topic I haven't really talked about out loud since it happened. And um, this experience happened to me about 10 years ago now in 2015. So, what I can remember from the experience from that weekend specifically is that, like, I don't know if I want to go into what I actually experienced in that. Um,
No, of course, you don't have to give any details about something so personal as an ayahuasca trip. Absolutely not.
right.
No, no, but maybe just kind of the effect, I suppose, is more so the more important aspect of all this, I would say.
So it was like 9 months of like pure um, psychosis, and I don't remember much of what happened. It's hard for me to like recall memories,
Mm-hmm.
and I know we're probably on the same page of our theories on what mental disorders actually are, and I believe that I feel like I experienced what that man experienced in the Bible with Legion, and it just took about 9 months for God to cast it out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But so I was in and out of psych wards. They tried to prescribe me like various medications, but nothing worked. I was still experiencing intrusive thoughts, which felt like 1,000 different voices in my mind all at once. And
Mm-hmm.
and it felt like they had complete like agency of my body, and I wasn't in control of what I was saying or doing. And I was kind of like watching all of it unfold from like 3 inches behind my eyes, if that makes sense.
It does for me
And
because yeah, I understand that. Go ahead.
and yeah, it was that was like 6 months. It lasted, and I finally was put on the right medication that helped me to regain control of my thoughts again. And in about like a 4 month period, I pretty much recovered. Yeah, so it was like a 9 month period of my life of dealing with the consequences of taking ayahuasca and
Mm-hmm.
recovering fully. And it left me kind of depressed and spiritually apathetic. And
Mm-hmm. So when you were doing these things originally, what were you looking for exactly? What did you think these experiences were going to offer you originally?
I decided to pursue those experiences because I thought it was a way for me to become closer to God. I was always striving to understand why I'm here, why I exist. And I've always been a very zealous person. If I'm passionate about something, I give it my absolute best. And I learned about, I remember sitting in my uh, dorm and I watched the DMT Spirit Molecule movie documentary.
Yeah, I
And
know it well. Yeah,
right, remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, but back nostalgia kicking in there. But yeah, I do remember that one.
And I was immediately fascinated, and I always had the philosophy that if it's a plant, then God created it. And I was learning about how people, like all other people's experiences, made me want to experience it too. And I was listening to, um, what's his name? McKenna,
Terence
John,
McKenna.
Terrence, yeah, Terrence McKenna and his brother, and all of these.
Terence and Dennis, I think it is. Dennis McKenna is actually a mycologist. He's a professor, and he wrote a very big book on all of that kind of stuff and entheogens. And then Terence McKenna was like his crazy brother who just did random talks, just jabbering on and on for hours. but
He
was
did
also
them.
he was also a mycologist as well, and a very no, he was definitely a specialist in his field. But if I remember correctly, even Terence McKenna stopped doing psychedelics towards the end of his life. Even he was like, after a bad trip, he was like, I'm not doing that again. That's enough, And I think it catches up with us all in the end. And your story sounds very similar to mine. I grew up in that same era of time, fresh at university, just after university, kind of looking for God, exploring consciousness and spirituality. And yeah, you do get the spirit molecule was big. Stoned ape theory was everywhere. Joe Rogan was talking about his trips on DMT. And I think a lot of our cult generation got swept up in that. Around that age bracket, when people were in their 20s about 10 years ago, I think, yeah, you're ringing and getting a lot of empathetic connections listening to your story here. But sorry, I'll give it back to you. So yeah,
It's okay. Yeah, whenever you talk about your psychedelic experiences, it just brings me right back. So
yeah,
we would have been pretty good pals, I bet.
probably. Well, it
School.
sounds to me like my drive too was I was sincerely looking for a connection to the divine, to God.
Yeah.
I never fully bought the whole I'm a God thing, as much as that was always pushed and kind of sold on us through most of these documentaries, that mankind's collective consciousness is God holistically, and we're all kind of just dissipated into different bodies, but we're all one, really, that kind of stuff. It's something deep down within me was always like, I think that's bullshit. Something about it that just doesn't sound right. It sounds like snake oil salesman stuff, and maybe it's my grandma's Catholic influence on me or something, that from a child, which I'd rejected wholeheartedly by this point and was left behind, But maybe like it's kind of, if you get them as a child, they'll never leave you, that type of stuff. And maybe it was always at that pull in the back of my mind. It's kind of like, and your parents, obviously, you said had like a Christian upbringing, raised you in knowing Jesus, so maybe that's why it was always kind of, well, there must be another way to get to him. Maybe that's why we kind of saw it that way. Like, not how do I make myself a God, but how can I get closer to him? And I sincerely did psychedelics for the same reasons. I just wanted to know the truth, whatever it was, not really for myself necessarily, but to gain a stronger relationship with whatever thing created all of this. And is that kind of what you were going for? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I wasn't trying to party or just like experience tripping for the sake of tripping. I always had very intentional prayers, like before I would consume any of these things. And it wasn't just ayahuasca. It was, I would smoke DMT. I did LSD a few times. I never did salvia. I know you've mentioned that was one of your.
I wouldn't recommend it as the first psychedelic you ever do at 16. I certainly wouldn't recommend that. No,
that sounds traumatic.
It was. That, yeah. I mean, the scary thing about these chemicals, these plants, that was a legal drug you could get at a head shop that just sold like bongs and stuff behind the counter. It was there, like, it wasn't even considered anything when I got it,
Right.
But it turns out it's more powerful, if not on par with dimethyltryptamine. I didn't know that was the case. I just watched a bunch of YouTube videos of people doing salvia and absolutely losing their minds and thinking, like, what are they seeing? So I did it myself with a friend. And it's funny because the video of me led there, I do this hit with like a homemade bong out of a Coca-Cola bottle and a pen hollowed out with some tinfoil for a bowl. Honestly, it was ridiculous. It was what you do when you're young and stupid, but it worked. And
Mhm.
I remember I just kind of led there. My friend's next to me, like, what do you see? And I just go pale white and my eyes go wide and I kind of sink into the thing and I just verbally go, no. And that's
Oh
it. That's
no.
the only thing I say. And then 10 minutes are gone. And I'm just sat there, kind of moving, jerking around randomly every now and then. Like I'm lost in the void by that point. I
Yeah.
went to that place no one should really see.
At 16?
At 16, yeah, then that was it then. From that
I
day
was at least
onwards,
like 19.
it was too young. It was too young. But from that day onwards, it's kind of all you can do is suppress an experience like that. It's traumatic. So I kind of willingly tried to forget, and because I couldn't make sense of it. Because by that point, I was like an atheistic, edgy teenager who rejected anything spiritualist. It's all science and what I can see only exists type of person. And then that happens. It's like, well, that was wrong. I was wrong. Which is kind of, and maybe some people listening today don't believe in the spirit realm and stuff. It's kind of like once you've seen some things, there's no real going back, unfortunately. And it's kind of
The spirit realm is always there.
exactly, yeah. So I had to kind of reconcile seeing some stuff I didn't really believe existed, and it took me maybe like 3 years to internalize it and kind of get back on with life. But I was doing like heavy, like cannabis smoking every day. And then I did fall back into psychedelic exploration again. I guess through that passion, that drive to know it's like, well, if there is a spirit realm, what is it? What's going on? Who made it? What's happening? So I suppose that sparked my curiosity in a big way. But would I recommend anyone do it? Hell no. Like hell no. That was terrifying. And like the things I saw, I you as someone who's done psychedelics, I can't tell you. It's beyond words. It's beyond mouth noises, the small little mouth noises, to convey the complexities of like the multidimensional things I experienced and witnessed. But it's kind of, it shakes you to your core. So I can only imagine what a 3-day ayahuasca trip was like. Like, I thought I was pretty hardcore, but then like listening to you, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's no. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, feel free to leave it out. But did you encounter any entities or anything of a otherworldly type? Or
No, I was just reminiscing on that when I was listening to your recent interview for that documentary.
yeah,
I forgot what your guest name was, but
he didn't want to release it yet. So I had to hide it.
Oh, okay.
So yes, that was done intentionally. He doesn't want people knowing who he is yet, but he's going to release a documentary in like the next few months for his university project, I think. So I'm just going to be there talking about Christianity and DMT jesters randomly. I don't know. I thought it'd be fun, so I said, "Yeah, go ahead, let's do it." He seemed to agree with me, but a lot of people commenting on that video do not agree with me. They hate me. Like they are so offended that I would dare say like maybe they're not your friends. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't have your best interests at heart.
Maybe they're laughing at you for a reason.
yeah. But that's neither here nor there. This is about you. Forget that. So yeah, you didn't experience anything. You didn't see any entities.
No. So what I can remember is that I would go into that familiar place, and that timeless, infinite like place that it brings you. And I never encountered any entity, any like gesture of what Joe Rogan would say, or in or in ayahuasca ceremonies in particular. All my friends would come back after a ceremony and talk about their like spirit guides they would meet, and they were always like these fancy jungle animals and like jaguars and snakes. And I remember being a bit jealous because I never got a visitation. Like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah, where's my creepy psychedelic monster trying to tell me I'm a god? Where are they? Like, that's fair enough. Well, in a way, in hindsight, I didn't experience any entities either. When I was doing it, searching for God, nothing came to me. I
Mhm.
didn't experience anything of an entity of any kind. Just a self-transforming machine elf, as Terence McKenna would say. Nothing, self-dribbling basketballs, nothing like that came to me. It was that space that you mentioned, this
Yeah.
familiar place that I
Mhm.
felt like home in, like I know this place. I've been here a million times before, and I forget it every time I leave.
Yep. It's
And
like
but when I
you're
go,
always there almost like,
yeah,
oh,
exactly,
this
yeah, yeah.
place again.
It's hard to explain it. It really is, and the visuals are just out of this world. It's just something else. But it's a real place like that you embody and dwell within. It's like either it's like within and without simultaneously. It's odd. It's just odd. Like we can't explain it. But no entities came to me. They only came to me when I quit everything,
I remember that story. Yeah,
and that
that's
was shocking.
intense.
Yeah.
Right, because
Did
you
you
were
have
just
to?
sitting on your couch and it all of a sudden like came
Oh,
over you.
I had multiple experiences. Yeah, I mean the one where I thought I had a brain aneurysm was dying happened on the
Hmm.
sofa. Everything that mandala opened up in front of me, like when you're first just going into a DMT trip, that kind of thing started to happen. I basically just went paralyzed, fell over, and darkness was just seeping in, and I thought like I'm dying. This is it. It's over. I'm dead. And I said, Jesus, help me, and it stopped instantly. Then I was onto something. Then I was like, well, damn, that works. Like that's, and I don't know what that was, but this was coming from a point in my life where I was kind of finding Jesus again, coming back to my faith, and yeah, I had quit everything. I've stopped smoking weed. I'd stopped taking any form of psychedelics. I barely even drank anymore. I was working on cutting off nicotine as well. I was living quite a hermit, celibate, solitude lifestyle. I was just trying to be a completely different person and just trying to get my head together and get out of that hole I'd found myself in from
Yeah.
all the psychedelics. And you can understand that feeling. And it's kind of, yeah, that's when spiritual attacks, no other way to describe them, began to happen. And that's when I kind of realized I was in the midst of a war,
Hmm.
and the weapons that worked were the name of Jesus. And I couldn't believe it myself. I could not believe it, but that's exactly what happened. And that's when my faith really started to get solidified. And that's when I saw jesters and things came to me in dreams, and sleep paralysis began to happen, and old hags sat on your chest, shadow entities. The Hat Man came to me in a dream and threatened to
Hmm.
kill me and said I owed him something. And it's kind of weird stuff. I had a vision of a giant, horrible looking thing grinning down at me, and it's kind of DMT flashbacks galore. And it's kind of only once I quit did they come for me. And
Hmm.
I've talked ad nauseum on my channel. I even wrote a book on the damn thing about what I think's going on there. But from your experiences, did you experience any spiritual attacks yourself through all of this, before or after, or was it relatively
Oh
just?
no, it was all sunshine and
Mhm.
happiness up until that 3 night ayahuasca ceremony. And even then, I can reflect on that weekend in particular. Like um, I just like fell into complete darkness, and it's almost like I came back into my body. Like I completely disassociated from my body. When I like came back into my body, I wasn't alone, and I very quickly fell into psychosis, and that was certainly a spiritual battle. That was the first time I realized like we were in a spiritual warfare. But it wasn't until like over 5 years later, after the fact, after I recovered, when I felt ready to finally um, start reflecting on that experience and start searching for answers to all these questions I had.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like
I can say it
at the
takes
point,
time for it to sink in, doesn't it?
yeah, I
Um,
just wanted to focus on being normal again
yeah,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
build a foundation for my life. And that's when I went to drafting school. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was finding your channel talking about the Nephilim look like clowns and all of your experiences that finally helped me to sit down and face what I experienced and come to peace with it, I think.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I played
So thank
some
you.
small part. Yeah, I'm glad I helped in some small way. My ramblings are useful. Um, Yeah, it's again, I can really empathize with your story because I get it, and I think there are thousands of people with our story who again got
Mhm.
swept up in that time and did the exact same thing because we all have this God-shaped hole in our hearts. We just don't realize it. So we keep trying to fill it with other stuff, and we got this promise of quick and cheap and easy enlightenment through just taking this chemical really quick,
Yeah.
and that's it. You'll have no ego anymore, and everything will be perfect. And it's kind of well, we got sold a crock of lies, and I think many people didn't find God in the process and went even further, doubled down into it. And who knows how far gone they are. And I think stories like this maybe help people realize there's another way to interpret these things. You
Mhm.
know, um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to reach them, but yeah, they're a stubborn bunch. I'll tell you that much as well. You can't tell a psychedelic tripper anything. They have to do it all themselves.
I always
That's
love when you say your book is a love letter to the psychedelic community.
Yeah, yeah, and they always fall back on the whole. You're just a backwards, stupid Christian who doesn't know what he's talking
Yeah, you
about.
don't know anything.
It's like, well, actually, I was you. I was you like 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like literally, quintessentially, a carbon copy of who you are right now. And it's kind of, but yeah, they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear it, and that's fair enough because it's like you said at the start. God in a way probably used this experience in some way to
Mhm.
help you gain perspective later in life
Exactly.
and bring you closer to him. And I feel like maybe this is why we didn't see entities. He did the same for
Mhm.
me. Like that experience is not necessary to know God. But for me and who I was as a person, God knew I was going to do it anyway. So he used it as his tool to get to me. And so
Mhm.
I feel like that's what it was. It's not like you need that to get to God. It's just that's what I was doing, and God needed to reach me in some way. So he says, well, if you're going to do psychedelics, then the only result that's going to come out of this is you're going to realize I'm real. I felt like that's what he was doing, and I'm thankful for it. But I wouldn't do it
Yeah,
again.
me
I would
too.
have certainly wouldn't do it again. So I think, yeah, that's just my theory on why no entities came to us to begin with. I don't know if it's true or not. I like the sentiment
Well,
though. I think that's it.
yeah, like that's why I think I went through that whole experience is was he was using it for his own good. It was for him to lead me to the truth in Jesus Christ and later in life.
And so so obviously you had this experience. You went through like a 5 year hiatus, basically,
Mhm.
just trying to get back to reality, deal with the traumatic events, kind of get back into the world a little bit, get back to some
Yeah.
normality, get some structure. Obviously, I assume you got married, you got a home, you got this job, you got a different degree, you got more focused, and then you said 2020 came around and kind of changed everything. What happened there exactly? Is that when was that
Oh,
the nexus point for you? Was that the rabbit hole, the Warren opened up and you fell in? Is that
yep.
okay? Go ahead. I'll let you tell that bit.
Because before 2020, between 2017 and 2020, I was working in an office and as a drafter. And so I was commuting an hour each way. It took up all of my time, all of my energy, and I didn't have time to think. I was just trying to be normal.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden I found myself working from home and had all of this free time and all of this solitude that I never experienced before. And that finally gave me the space to start looking for questions, like looking for answers to all my questions that I had. So I decided one day, it was actually when I first visited my house when we were buying it. I pulled into my driveway for the first time and I looked and there was like a 6.5 foot tall stone wall bordering my yard. And I asked, who built that? And
Hmm.
I, that was my first like conspiracy topic that I delved into was who built the stone walls in New England.
Hmm.
And that quickly led me to the study of like the presence of the giants in America. So I was watching like the megalithic mania guys. Yeah, the first conspiracy that I delved into was the giants, which quickly led to the reality of the Nephilim, who were the giants. So Yeah, that was around it was around the time of COVID, and the first rabbit hole I went down was of the stone walls. Like I wanted to know who built them and why there was over 250,000 miles of stone walls in New England and why I never learned about them before.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, my research led me into the giants and then the Nephilim. And all along at the same time, I was learning about the systematic corruption, like what the pandemic really was about. And I remember listening to the Iwaranon documentaries, and
Yeah.
that was the first time I learned about made the connection of ancient advanced architecture and like finally seeing them for how amazing they truly are. And I was learning about like Tartaria and all of what that implies. And
It's a bit of a game changer when you discover that kind of stuff.
yeah,
I mean, it's
sure
it's
was.
it blew my mind when I first came across hidden histories,
Mhm.
advanced old world technology in these buildings, the megalithic structure thing, the stone wall thing you mentioned is actually something we talked about, and I was blown away when you said there was these kind of layered, stacked, freehand stacked stone walls just all over the place,
All
seemingly in the
over.
most random places as well. Like on top of
Hmm.
the hill in the middle of a forest that's really dense that no one's ever going to walk through. It's kind of why is that up there? Who put that there? Why would you even bother? And it's kind of we have the exact same thing here in the northwest of England.
Hmm.
And it's specifically only in like the northwestern part of England. And
Oh,
when
that's
you
interesting.
and they're everywhere. They're not like south of it. Like they
Hmm.
kind of stop, and there's like a just a, and it's hundreds, thousands of miles of these stone walls all over the place. And some of them are dividing up farmland. Some of them are just not. They're just not. They're just seemingly literally in the middle of nowhere. They're half decaying, crumbling, overgrown on them, growth and everything like this.
Hmm.
And it's kind
Oh
of
yeah, they're buried in the ground.
yeah, yeah. It's like who, like, honestly, I have no idea who built half of this stuff. I really cannot wrap my head around it. And everyone just seemingly walks around like it's normal and ignores them, like they're
Yeah,
just a part of the scenery. And
yeah,
so
they never thought about them.
when you started talking about it, I was like, hang on a minute, like I know exactly what you're on about. And I showed you some of the pictures of the ones we've got all over the place, and they match up exactly with the exact same style of what you've got over there in New England, separated by like 1,000 miles. And I'm like, how is that possible?
Right.
And you realize it's possible, and we've had these are wild theories, by the way, for people who don't know what we're talking about. I have a channel called Understanding Conspiracy. We go wild. I'm talking schizo wild into crazy ideas over there. That if you've never heard this stuff before, you're gonna wonder what the hell are we talking about. But I'm just gonna say it here anyway. It's possible New England and England were connected at some point, and it seems like they've drifted apart, or ocean has separated the land connectivity in some way, and the architecture remains. It's the same. New England's architecture is the same as England architecture. And I don't mean the new buildings, the capital buildings. I'm talking about these ancient stone megalithic style. And that's wild. I mean, just off a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, when you showed me that, I was like, that's something great, right? That's a good connection to the whole alternative history thing we were talking about. But I'll give it back to you.
Right. Oh man. And it's not just New England and England. My sister-in-law from Peru was describing very similar stone walls all throughout her, like where she's from, and they're out west, they're in Canada. But yeah, my research was very focused on the New England area. That's where I'm from. And I'll send you the website I'm about to talk about, but it's this LiDAR map. When you look at the aerial view, um, you could just,
I think you've shown me this one. I think you can see in this. They've laid them out in like blue, haven't they? Like blue lines all over the place on the
yeah,
map. And they're
yeah,
literally just
they're just everywhere.
scattered, like veins running through the whole
Yeah,
land, aren't they? Yeah.
you can, if you just like look at the map, you see there's an entire different civilization that once lived and used and built these walls that we just came and built our farms on top of and repurposed them. And so my Stonewall research kind of led me to the American Stonehenge site in New Hampshire. And I actually got to visit that site maybe like 2 summers ago. And I have some really good pictures. I can send you those too. But it was there. I think it was the famous archaeologist that worked on it was Barry Fell, and he wrote the book America BC. And he, in that book, lays out all of his evidence for Phoenician presence in New Hampshire, and in that site specifically, there is
Like a sacrificial slab of some kind.
it's a whole site surrounding this sacrificial slab that has things carved into the edges so they can collect the blood, I guess. And in the same site, they found artifacts containing Phoenician script dedicated to Baal directly. And they just found so many primary source evidence that at least that location was built by these ancient peoples. And I am just able to see the similarities between that site and all of the stone walls I see in my local area. They all just look similar. And
So what we're alluding to there is something like Canaanites, like quite literally like the Phoenician Baal worshipping, sacrificing to Moloch Canaanites of the Bible in a place they should not be in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, an interesting, fascinating. Yeah, fascinating concept. And that's for people who don't know, I've covered this type of stuff a lot on my channel, and it's kind of we're a part of like an odd community online, aren't we? Like a sub community online that kind of explores all these crazy concepts. And yeah, we're basically discovering all history is complete bunk. Like whatever we've been told, like geography and maps and everything, it's all up in the air now. And these are just little tidbits that we're kind of talking about here, just little hints that kind of lead you to these bigger questions. And I'm guessing in some way that a lot of this maybe inspired your artwork as well, because you can't help but let it. I mean, I did the same thing. I literally made a YouTube channel about conspiracies after doing all this stuff for university. Did you find this stuff played a heavy influence on your creativity?
absolutely. So it was the Tartarian, like the architecture that obviously led me to the millennial reign historical past topic that inspired me the most. I started this project here about 3.5 years ago, I think it is now, and to connect it back to the stone walls. So, what I want to do is I'm starting my own YouTube channel where I share my artwork and the research that inspires it. And so I want to present my research in like playlists, topics that I like to look into, and create pieces of art related to that topic at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think there's a big niche for that type of thing, like a market for that type of stuff. Because I think conspiracy is growing online. Personally, I think it's kind of becoming normal to be a conspiracy theorist now. I think the scoffers have seen way too many things come to pass that we predicted years ago to start saying actually maybe they're onto something now. I think that's begun to happen. And I think there is a market, let's say, within the conspiracy community for art for our people, for the people who are actually paying attention to that type of stuff. And I think there is no greater inspiration than the truth,
Exactly.
And I look forward to seeing what you come up with there. So this project you're working on behind you here, obviously you can see there's influence here from Antiquitech, rose windows, cathedrals, Gothic architecture style, and obviously I can see instantly why you would have done something like this. Not only is it just visually appealing and geometrically beautiful, this also could quite literally be a piece of technology from the research we've been kind of looking into. And what's with the addition of birds? Is there a specific thought or process or reason behind that, or is it just because you like the way they look?
No. Okay, so let me tell you the story behind how I got the imagery for this particular piece. It was around the time where I was first just learning about the possibility of the millennial reign in our past. And it was before I fully dedicated my life to Jesus and accepted him and became a born again Christian, I was still observing everything, taking in all of this new information. And I remember I was just finishing up painting my rose, the painting titled Agency that is my profile picture. I decided to just go sit down and pray and meditate for a moment and just to ask God. So it was one of the first times that I sat down to pray to Jesus specifically. And I just had the vision of this rose window with the blue sky coming in behind it. I'm just trying to say I don't know where the birds came from.
Well, I like them. I think they're a nice addition. I'm a bit of a bird photographer myself back in the day. I took a lot of pictures of birds over the years. Um, when I spent many a year just alone before I was married, before I met my wife, and I was just wandering around in forests with like a telephoto lens, just sat there waiting for anything to happen. And then it's kind of there's an art form to taking a picture of birds. I'm not going to lie, so it's kind of I can really appreciate the piece of artwork that incorporates them because there's something graceful about them, isn't there? I kind of get it. And I think it links quite well to something like godliness, angelic. These are creatures that can basically be in the heavens. A lot, figuratively speaking. they can, they're light,
yeah.
Symbolically, So I think it definitely matches the theme.
Yeah, I'm not sure why I chose 15 of them either. There's 15 total on the.
Yeah. It works. It works really well, and obviously there's on your Instagram. I see you're constantly posting like little snippets of you painting each bird on this big piece that you're doing. Like, and you kind of. So, in terms of artistic process here, what did you do to do this painting? Because you have the raw drawing there behind you. Is that the original piece behind you there, the drawing itself? Have you made a print copy of the drawing and you're painting on top of that? Is that how that's working? Or
okay, so I'm actually relatively new to painting. I've always been a drawer. I always worked in graphite or charcoal. And before, around when I first got back into art making, I was focused on little graphite drawings, and they were only like 4 or 5 inches long. And I knew I needed to expand in size and embrace color. And that's why I decided to choose oil painting. And so for this project, I decided I like sat down and I tried to remember everything that my professors taught me in college. And I tried following the advice that I was able to remember to the best of my ability. So the process that I used for this piece is I started with this drawing. It's 42 by 42 inches. And I started by creating like a little composite reference photo online. And I just found a blueprint drawing of this rose window. So it was like looking at it straight on, the perspective I was searching for. And I then sketched it out and completely defined the lines. And I took this drawing and I transferred it right onto a panel, which involves tracing paper and transfer paper. And essentially, I had to redraw this completely all over again to make an impression onto the panel. So I was left with an impression on my panel for me to then paint.
It sounds like a long technical process. I mean, yeah, I can imagine you would have to redraw the entire thing again just to get it on. And obviously, I guess you use squares, compasses, and the rest of it to get the effects that you need because there's actually a lot of circles. I think I saw some raw images of this somewhere where you can clearly see before you define the lines just how much geometry is actually in this thing is like ridiculous. So I don't envy that you had to redraw the entire thing again. I really don't.
Yeah, I have a very deep appreciation for that as a drafter. And I was able to utilize a lot of my skills.
It's a skill. I suppose it is a skill that transfers quite well. So could you just define a little bit more for an idiot like me? Like what is a drafter do exactly?
Oh, sure.
What
So
was the
if you
role?
can picture like architecture blueprints of a house, a mechanical drafter does a very similar process for three-dimensional like physical objects.
Mm.
So I work with like three-dimensional models on in CAD software on a computer. And what I do is I take this three-dimensional model and I paste it onto a flat plane, like a flat drawing. And I, my task is to fully define the part for.
So it's kind of you're making a blueprint that can be seen from every single angle to recreate it in a productive kind of ways. Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
yeah,
So
to
like that.
fully define a part on paper,
Mhm.
essentially. We can hand that off to someone else to make it actual, like actually.
Interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, in a way, I guess, like I said, that would transfer very well to this particular style of artwork. Because going through your website, you have quite a lot of proficient, technical, beautiful nature drawings on there,
Mhm.
landscapes. There's one where a bird is kind of going straight down into a lake, which I really appreciate as well. And you can definitely see like an advancement of a developed style throughout the years of your graphite drawings to using color today.
Mhm.
And I find this is another thing maybe people who aren't artists don't know, but it really does feel like as an artist, especially when you get to like you're older and you've already covered the basics and you haven't really got much more to learn
Mhm.
necessarily about the intricacies of the detail. But every time you start a new project, it's like way better than the previous one. And it just keeps
Mhm.
happening. And suddenly you get into that zone, don't you, where it's kind of you don't know what you level up every time. Leveling up is a good way to describe it. And I had this phenomenon. I don't know if you've had the same experience, but it's kind of I could go years and never pick up a pencil,
Mhm.
and then as soon as I do pick up the pencil and draw, I've actually improved from when I last did it, even though I've done nothing for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of how does that work exactly? What do you think that's about? Does that happen to you, or is it just me?
Yeah, it's like kind of like riding the bike. Like you
Yeah,
never
yeah.
really lose your
You never forget.
skills.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I had a similar experience after my 5 year hiatus from art making. And when I was starting these little graphite drawings, I was surprising myself even. Like I forgot I had skill.
Yeah.
And I would finish one and I start another and I would feel like I improved. And
Mhm.
I keep chasing after that feeling, I guess.
I guess that's what it is, isn't it? In hindsight, in retrospect, I would like to equate it perhaps to God in some way that this really is a God given talent. It's like a blessing to have this ability because I really don't feel like I'm learning to do this. I really don't feel like I did anything to be able to do a drawing. I don't feel like, and no one taught me how to do it. I practiced and got better with time, sure, but it's kind of like I said, that passion's just there. You never feel like you're working when you do it. In fact, you enjoy it so thoroughly, you forget yourself. It's like a form of meditation in a way, or communication with the creator in a sense, like taking part in the art of creation itself. Something about it that I can't explain. And it does feel like it's kind of oh, so you've not painted in a while. Well, the next painting you're going to do is going to be great. So saith the Lord. Just for that reason, it's kind of just to get you into that zone again, because maybe he has a plan for you. It's like you need to make some artwork for a specific reason. Like keep doing it. Don't forget you've been given this gift in a sense. And that's kind of how I see it now. I mean, when I was younger, I don't feel like I saw it that way. I don't know how I saw it. I guess I wasn't really thinking about it when I was younger. It was kind of, it just is. But now I'm getting old and retrospective about everything. I'm kind of like, is this God messing with me? Is this what all this was all along? I don't know. I don't know. Your story echoes to me like there's some kind of you've been pushed to be where you are today, in a sense. Do you feel like there was some kind of spiritual push to be where you are, creativity wise, or do you think it's all just random happenstance and it's you just ended up here by chance?
No, I think I've always been destined to be an artist, and it was the 5 years I pretended I wasn't. I was able
Mm.
to get my house in order, and it um, I was able to get a full-time job working remote, and I finally understood what my dad was trying to tell me before I went into universities: find a stable job and like give yourself like earn the free time to then pursue your passions, and that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't create art for the purpose of becoming a famous artist. I create art because it's the reward, it's how I feel most connected to God. And when I am in my studio and I am painting, I don't want to think about recording it and posting it online. I just want to enjoy the moment to myself.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
can
something I
get
have
that.
to work on. That's something I have to
No, I
work
can
on
get that.
because I need to start sharing it, my stuff and take it that more seriously.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do what I can to support your work and share it on this platform. And again, I enjoy what you're doing, and our stories are very similar. And I think that's why I feel a bit of a kindred desire or need to kind of like share your work with other people in some ways. Kind of because I get it, I get the story, I get the struggle, and the struggle's real for any creator or artist trying to make it in this world today. And I feel like I said, we need to kind of support one another and help others to see that there are people out there who think like we think and create work that we want to see. Because, like I said, what we get given is awful from like the mainstream sources, and I'm just not interested in it. So in a way, this is an indie art, isn't it? If you put it like a
Yeah.
music scene, it's an underground indie art scene. This is what we're kind of going to develop here. But like I said, we'll probably bring this to a close now because we're going for an hour and a half. After editing, this might not be an hour and a half. Maybe get this down to an hour or something. This is how it tends to go. You heard when I was reading your opening statement, I was repeating myself because I'm going to cut those mistakes out and you'll just hear the flow in the end. It's exactly how I do my audiobook right now. That's such a long, horribly painful
Oh, I can
process.
imagine.
I can't believe I don't know why I took that project on in the middle of trying to write a second book and run a YouTube channel and start a new YouTube channel. I've bitten off way more than I can chew here, and I'm stressed to the nines with. I feel like this like I don't know. Maybe this is some artist advice in general, but never make promises if you don't know or time scales because the pressure is just unbearable. Like especially as an
I've learned that
artist,
too. Yeah, you don't
yeah,
give dates for the creative
never
things.
do that. No, I made that mistake. Um, and also, it's kind of don't spread yourself too thin. Like split focus is an enemy of an artist, I would say, because it's best to hyper focus on one thing and do it right than to half-ass a lot of things at once. And I am now in that realm where I'm deciding, all right, I'm going to leave one thing and only focus on this one thing until it's done. So right now I'm only focusing in my spare time on the audiobook because it needs to get done. And once that's boxed off, then I can only focus on the advert for the audiobook. And then I can focus on
Okay.
finishing finishing off the second book, and it's kind of I was trying to do everything at once for a while, and it's kind of like burnout, serious burnout. Have you experienced burnout recently? Anything of the sorts?
Absolutely. Like I said, this drawing is 3.5 years in the making, and I try not to think about the ending of it, but because I'm so close to finishing it, I am starting to get excited about my next projects and what I want to do after I finish it. But yeah, the lesson has been no, you need to finish what you started first. But
Yes, I think that's every artist is like this though,
yeah.
and I don't know. I'm massively, grossly over exaggerating here, but I think we're all a little bit ADHD. Like you can't be an artist unless you're slightly like just not on the spectrum necessarily, but I don't know, you're scatterbrained. We tend to be like that. Like we get bored easily. It seems
Yeah.
to be our nature. Like creativity comes at a price, and we're fickle by nature.
Right. You can only obsess about something for so long before you start, well, your mind starts wandering.
Yeah, exactly. My YouTube channel is a literal testimony to that, like a literal testimony to that example. But I have fun doing it, and I hope other people have fun coming in on the journey. And I hope they've enjoyed this conversation as well with yourself, Elizabeth. So before we close this off, do you want to just maybe plug where people can find your work, anything you're working on currently, and yeah, where they can buy your work, any services you offer? This is your chance to shill for yourself. Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, first, I can't thank you enough for your continuous support and for creating this platform to bring us all together. Like, you may not have much success bringing Christians and conspiracy theorists together, but this platform you're starting here, you're certainly already doing a great job at bringing like-minded artists together, and I couldn't thank you enough for this opportunity. Anyone who wants to keep up with me and what I'm doing, they can follow me at Rejoice Artworks on YouTube. That's my YouTube channel, as well as all of my usernames across the social media platforms. I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. But so I'd love to invite anyone to come check out my website at rejoiceartworks.com. There you can find my completed portfolio and read more about me in my about page. And if you also like a commissioned portrait, I offer that service, and you can reach me on my website to learn more.
Fantastic. Right. Elizabeth, thanks for doing this. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, you did really well. You should be proud of yourself. Okay.
Thank you,
I know
Paul.
it. I know it's tough to speak to a wider audience, especially for the first time. You did a
Mhm.
great job, and I think the audience will appreciate you sharing your story, your testimony, and your artwork as well. And anyone listening, go to Elizabeth's website and buy a print. She has them for sale. Her artwork is fantastic. We have to support each other in this community, so go and get yourself a nice piece of that. And maybe when she finishes this painting as well, get yourself a lovely copy of that too, because I know I will. And you will be seeing it behind here when it's finished. I have a little square space just here waiting for it to be filled. So, yes, Elizabeth, again, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. And God bless.
Thank you, Paul. I couldn't thank you enough. God bless.